I'm going to call the Urban Affairs Committee to order tonight at 5:31. We have 3 items to take up on this agenda. 2 are related to the Executive Residential Overlay District and the site plan review permit and special permit for the Green District. But first, we'll start with order number 19-100, 7780, application for special permit from Attorney Brian Falk on behalf of One Energy, Inc., to authorize the alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming gas station use to a gas station, convenience store, and restaurant/cafe use at 121 Bolton Street.
Actually, right here.
So for the councilors and public, it's important that you realize that this has not yet gone through the professional site plan review, so there's plenty of work to be done, so we will not be anywhere close to completing this tonight. We will, however, get on the table all of the concerns, changes, and other things that the councilors want, and get that on the record and let our proponents start working on how they want to address that. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Falk. If you can introduce your team, we can get going.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here with me is Mark Dyer-Bakerly from One Energy, Diane Nagelian, and Richard from Ayub Engineering. So since we were before you at the public hearing, we have submitted a draft decision trying to propose some conditions on issues that came up during the public hearing. We've also submitted a traffic report, and we received comment letter from Priscilla Ryder, the conservation agent, with some preliminary review of the site. As you mentioned, we haven't been to the site plan committee yet, but we will. We're scheduled before them on Tuesday, November 5th, where we'll hopefully flesh out some additional issues. Again, this project needs to go through site plan review after receiving a special permit. So this will be initial comments from the professionals on the issuance of the special permit, but we'll be back before them again for full scope of review under full site plan review. So just a few highlights of the draft decision. Most of the conditions you're used to seeing, standard boilerplate. We did add a condition on the hours of operation, limiting ourselves to 5 a.m. Thank you, Karen. 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. We have a condition regarding some of the questions that came up about outdoor seating. As you'll see on our site plan, we had 2 tables near the building for outside seating, and we proposed a condition where that would be permitted, but if the fire chief or the police chief finds that it has become a problem, the police chief would have the ability to submit notice to the council, and the council could do away with outdoor seating at any time that issue posed a problem for the city or neighbors. We have trash pickup limitation of none on Sunday and nothing before 7 a.m. or after 6 p.m. And we have a note on signs that we would be limited to only 1 freestanding sign.
Okay, thank you. Councilors, you want to start with questions? Councilor Jouer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a couple of comments and questions. On your hours of operation, you're asking for 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'd like to see you move that up to 6 a.m. And also, there's a city ordinance that specifies the operations for gas stations. For all gasoline stations, car washes operated in the city shall be open for business no earlier than 6 a.m. and closed no later than 11 p.m. daily. And that's Chapter 342, Section 1. And if you want to change it, you can come before us. But I would, recommend accepting the hours now at 6, just to keep this moving. And, if you want to change it down the road, come back. But I'd hate to see, that hold this project up. And number 8, on the outdoor seating, I would like to see that eliminated altogether. I think that would become a problem for the neighbors. I think it would become a problem of littering. It would become a hangout late at night and early in the morning, and there could be instances where there's a package store right across the street, hey, I'm gonna go get a sandwich, you go get the beer, we're gonna sit here, we'll have a quick lunch, and I just don't think it's a good mix for that type of neighborhood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Does anybody else want to opine on the outdoor tables? I'm fully ready to support Counselor Jouer on that. I'd rather not see those. I don't think the neighbors want them. Counselor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not on the committee, but when it comes to the full council, I would certainly support the elimination of those tables outdoors. I totally agree with the comments that were made. And I don't, if I may, I do have a couple of other
Yep.
questions. I did talk to the building commissioner, and I know he did send us a letter. And I guess this has not gone to site plan, so I am a little curious why we're doing this without site plans review. And I guess I wanted to have my question that I brought up at the public hearing about the no more than 25% answered. So he did assure me that you do meet that, but as he is, as I am, concerned with the size of the building and the feeling that you could conform to the requirements, even though it is a existing non-conforming. So I think that his comments on the two openings on 85 also sort of go along with the comments about the requirement for landscaping that Priscilla Ryder brought up. And the only thing that I guess has not been brought up in this or by anybody else is maybe a condition that they cannot have anything visible for sale on the sidewalk in front of the building. I think we've added that language in other special permits for gas stations. I am curious about where you've got the handicap parking, and I believe the sidewalk is 48 inches maybe, but the doors seem to open out. So when the handicapped person comes up from looking at the building from the left, now the door's going to open, can they still get by?
The front sidewalk is 5 feet wide, which gives enough clearance. You need to have a 5-by-5 clear area in front of the door for entry, and that is provided.
So if they opened that left-hand door, and I would assume those doors will have a handicap accessible button
Yes.
as they come up the ramp to have the doors open for them, so they're not struggling with getting to the door, having it open and getting,
That is correct.
okay, all right.
Okay, so Counsel, you're probably, I couldn't agree more with the nothing visible for sale outside. So we don't want any storage or products for sale outside, right?
Right.
General agreement on that, committee? Yeah. Counselor Landers and President Clancy.
Likewise, Mr. Chairman, I don't see any value to have outside seating. I'm not so sure if you really use that much. And, you know, I know that the neighbors aren't concerned about it. One comment I was going to make last week, I don't have the diagram in front of me tonight, but I like the way the entrance was from Bolton Street, and then I believe the entrance was situated on State Street that was as far further towards Bolton Street as before. And I think that's a nice setup for eliminate any problems on State Street. And I think, I don't know, most of the entrances, most people will enter from Bolton Street, do you think?
Vast majority.
Yeah. So I thought that was a good approach there. So that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. President Clancy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. As far as the outdoor sales, you know, the gas station out on, right beside 495, I think it's an Exxon station or a Shell station, I'm not exactly sure. There's one across the street. But there was a problem with sale of outdoor materials. They had wood, they had all kinds of bottles on display. They even had a soda machine and ice machines. So my feeling is that the front of the building will be clear. So there won't be anything out there. And this will allow for the handicapped accessibility for a person coming along in the front of the building. As far as the entrance onto State Street, I think that there was a problem when they were redoing the street, and they put it way back, and the city, in its infinite wisdom, moved it forward. And it actually is probably placed in a better spot onto State Street. I can understand why they have to have that entrance there. The thing is that I'm taking a look at it, the proximity to the edge of State Street. You're only about 25 feet off the street. Is that, am I correct in that?
I believe you're correct,
Yes.
President Clancy, yes.
Okay, so it's 25 feet off the street. I'm not exactly sure, because it seems though it's sort of all pushed over into one side. You're not planning on having any other driveways or anything like that?
No.
No.
And as said previously, we intentionally moved it down.
I'm sorry, please speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry, we intentionally moved it towards Bolton Street to not dump all the traffic on State Street, not onto the neighborhood.
Yeah. Because you have, the dumpsters are over in the guy's backyard now. And they're gonna be somewhere, I understand. You're gonna have enclosure around the dumpsters?
Complete enclosure, yes.
We are,
And all-
Councilor Clancy, condition number 9, defining the trash area. You may remember seeing that condition in the St. Mary's decision we did recently in terms of it being fully enclosed and a hard enclosure.
There'll be, when you leave, people tend to use trash containers in odd hours of the day and night for their own personal use, so maybe it might be within your better judgment to make sure that they lock them up when you leave, and you could wind up with an awful lot of trash there after a weekend. Anything that you do on this site is going to improve what we have there. If the site is nice and clean according to EPA regulations, I'm grateful. We have to get something going there. The sooner you tear that place down, the better off it's gonna look. It's just an eyesore out there. As far as the outdoor tables, I don't think that they're necessary at this point. As we go along, I'll have other comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we've got 5 no's so far on the outdoor table, so you may want to factor that in.
I've counted the no's, thank you, Councilor.
Okay. You're pretty good about that. Councilor Jouer.
Thank you. Just one other thing before we get off the conditions. You folks are not planning on selling any cars out of there, right? So we could make that...
Part of our business.
I didn't hear you.
That's not part of our business. no,
Okay,
it's
then
not.
we can add that as a condition. There'll be no auto sales out of there? Won't-
You may, it's not permitted by zoning, we'd have to get another special permit to do that anyway, but the condition is perfectly fine as well.
Okay, no auto sales or rentals, okay?
Just to go along with that, with what Councilor Joya just said, the previous owner had 6 cars assigned to that space for outdoor sale of automobiles. So we want that to go away.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Also, there's not going to be any mechanic work as well, right?
No.
Okay. Okay. Should that also be included?
No repairs, no mechanical work.
If you want, sure.
Thank you.
No repairs. Okay, so there are a few other things. So how much bigger is the footprint going to be from the current building?
Richard, do you have the,
Is it 5%,
the
10%?
total lot coverage goes down from about 75% to 70%. So total lot coverage is going down. The actual size of the building compared to what's there now, I believe increases slightly, but total lot coverage,
So the lot
green
coverage,
space
meaning
goes up.
impervious surfaces, goes
Correct.
down.
Correct.
But the building size itself is getting how much bigger?
It's getting larger. It's about 1,600 square feet. Now it's going to 3,700. Plus, well, there's 2 additional trailers on the site next to the building. You could add another 600-700 for those,
Trailers? What kind of trailers?
for storage.
Not for us, what's currently there, which
Oh,
is
what's
going
there
away.
now? Gotcha,
Current.
gotcha.
Right.
Yes.
For the environmental storage of the equipment. that type of-
Okay.
One of them is an EPA recovery vehicle.
Right.
Yeah, so those are going away.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. So what percentage is the building going to increase by?
The building is almost almost twice as big as the current building, the new building. But total lot coverage goes down by about 5% to 70%.
And that's allowable within the pre-existing non-conforming?
Where our current lot coverage is pre-existing non-conforming, so we're only reducing the non-conformity through this project.
Okay, so it's not the building size?
No. No, the building complies with setbacks. It's the total lot coverage that we have an issue. It's not a floor area ratio problem.
Yeah, Commissioner Cook, that's correct? Okay. You know, that was a question that was out there. So, okay, so we're good with it. Well, the regulations say that it can't be more than a 25% expansion of the non-conforming use. But that, so why don't you sit there? And so the question is I was asking whether it was the building or just the lot coverage.
The way I look at that, that's lot coverage, because it talks about floor and ground area.
Okay.
Right.
There's no comma, so it's looking at both of them can't increase more than 25%.
Okay, so it's within regulations. Thank you. Okay, just trying to look at some of the other questions that other counselors had. Counselor Irish had requested that there be clear markings on the pavement as well as signage to direct those in the queue for fueling to try and offset some of the traffic on Bolton Street. So sometimes things as simple as signage can really help the flow of any business. He also said, should you consider omitting the diesel pump if you need that extra space for the traffic queue? So, I don't know about that. You can think about that. Question that I had was, when you guys, you folks did your presentation, you said that somebody said there's no possible way that there could be any leakage, which is baloney. Stuff happens. So, knowing what we know now about the 21J fund that is there for whatever reason to support the gas station owners and does absolutely nothing for the property owners, have you considered some extra kind of insurance policy or some other kind of thing that will buffer the neighbors should the unanticipated happen? I mean, there are times when they put in these pumps and they put in the tanks and people install them incorrectly. It's happened. And you got leakage because these morons are doing it. And then you have situations where you have all these controls telling us if there's a leak or there's not a leak, but Councilor Ossing worked at a nuclear power plant. He's a nuclear engineer. Nuclear power plants release radioactive steam. It's not that unusual for that to happen. So they got nuclear engineers working there. You guys probably won't.
We will not.
So what kind of extra safeguards can we have for the neighbors knowing which way the gasoline flows when it doesn't work right?
So, Mr. Dyer-Bakley reminded me that One Energy, Inc., the company, has $15 million liability coverage. So we could come up with a condition that references that coverage. We have sufficient coverage, far more than the current owner in terms of if there is an incident. And again, these are brand-new tanks to the highest standards. You raise a fair point that leaks can still happen. But, new owner, new coverage requirements, I think we can come up with a condition that will satisfy that concern.
I would appreciate that, and also if you can explain to us in that condition and give us documentation to explain how that applies to the neighbors. So my swimming pool is now full of gasoline. How do I get help versus you folks paying for the cleanup, but yet my life is turned upside down? So
Sure.
That would be greatly appreciated. Do we have any other questions, comments, or concerns? President Clancy.
One of the things that, there was a concern that one of the neighbor to the right, Mr. Aldridge, had a fence with a lot of trees along the side, and the fence was all pushed over from the previous owner, and is there any indication that we're going to upgrade that fence? You're gonna tear that fence out and remove the trees, and
Yes, we can do that. That won't be an issue.
so there'll be some sort of a fence going around, all the way around.
Correct.
Okay, so if we can add that as a condition as well, I'd
Yep.
appreciate that. Oh, and the other thing, I want to make sure, there are two things Counselor Oram had asked about, looking at the sign. What does the signage look like when it's lit up? This is, I don't think we need a humongous sign in that location, right? It's kind of a neighborhood. You're going to see, you don't need a 50-foot lollipop sign up there, right? Because you won't see it when you're driving, actually. So if you could give us an idea of what you're going to do, and
Yep.
the more tasteful and low-key, I think, the better. Well, I was just asking your question there, Council Oram, about the signage. You had wanted to know what the signage would look like when it's lit up. We're on the gas station right now, over at Brown's.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It would be nice to know what the lighting will be and how it will be deflected so it doesn't bother the neighbors.
And the freestanding sign out front as well. Okay. Any other questions for today? Councilor Jouer, are you?
I thought there was something in the condition already about the lighting. Just give me a second.
Yeah, there is number 6, lighting.
Right.
That'll be downward facing, et
Right,
cetera.
right.
So that's pretty standard. But also the signage, I'd like
The
to see the
sign, yeah.
the freestanding sign,
Gonna work, yep.
just to see what that looks like.
So before we table, just want to make sure we're all on the same page, learn from Councilor Rossing. We're looking at no outside displays.
Or storage.
Storage, right. We are looking to change the hours to 6 a.m., and that you'll have to do because of the city ordinance.
Yep.
We are requesting that you eliminate condition number 8, the outdoor seating. We're going to add to a condition, no auto sales or rentals. Add no repair. Add about the insurance thing that we were talking about to protect the neighbors. And then we're going to have wording for fence, and you're going to bring in a thing of what the sign is going to look like.
Right.
And I don't think I missed anything.
Nope, the one that I hadn't asked yet was, we got the trash and pickup times, but, outdoor music or any of those speakers or any of that's going to bother neighbors, we really don't need that, right? I'm assuming you're going to have the new pumps with the videos and all that, right? Which is, we now allow that, but no audio at all related to that. And if you use those, then you're not going to be able to do a bunch of signs on your windows, okay? It's going to be a beautiful-looking station, I'm sure.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I
Counselor Oram?
just got here, so I don't know if you discussed the actual time for deliveries and trash pickup.
That is in the,
That's a
in
condition.
the conditions, so Brian, you want to point to
Sure.
that?
We set the trash pickups to be not before 7 a.m., not after 6 p.m., and none on Sunday.
And how about the question that our conservation agent asked about the status of the site cleanup? Will it be a AUL site, which is activity use limitation, under DEP, or will it be completely cleaned up?
As if, I think, last week, the last round of testing has resulted in no further action required, and the LSP
Too close
will-
to the mic.
The LSP will be,
Okay, too close to the mic.
the LSP will be preparing closures once we have our city approvals.
Okay, I think what she was looking for is just the paperwork. It sounds like it's in the process as we speak, so that sounds good.
So is it reasonable that at our next meeting in a couple weeks or so, we'll have a report and we'll understand exactly what the conditions are there, or no?
We won't have the report. We won't have the report ready yet because it's contingent upon the getting city approval for the project. But we can give you a better update than what we've provided.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we received an email, I think it was today, from Priscilla, stating that was, she was waiting for one other final report, but stating that area, that property is clean.
Okay. So
But-
we'll get that through site plan. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Just one more. There was the restaurants/cafe request in there. Could you explain that a little bit more? Maybe Kevin or Brian can do
So
that.
the plant, it's a convenience store, and we will be selling food and prepared food. Building Commissioner Cook asked that I add restaurant/cafe to the application to cover that, but it's not intended to be a restaurant. There's no seating indoors. This is to salad bar, smoothies, prepared foods, those types of things.
Yeah, see, what I'm afraid of is that somebody, after this gentleman here decides that he no longer wants to own it, somebody will look at it and say, oh, I can put in a restaurant and I can put in a cafe, so I'm going to have a pizzeria here, or I'm going to start selling other things. We should state that it is only for a pre-prepared food that is brought on site. Is that, maybe I can ask Commissioner Cook if that's the best way that it could be addressed.
I wouldn't necessarily say pre-prepared, because I don't know exactly the business plan, but a lot of them are selling the hot dogs, the slices of pizza.
But are they going to have a,
So the restaurant cafe, I take it, is a takeout service.
could you
There's
have a
no
pizza,
seating.
could you have a pizza business there? Yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
So with this permit, you can then, is that not a change of use? To say, I now am running a pizza place, a Greek restaurant, a burger joint, and no gasoline?
That's what they're doing with the convenience. That's what they're doing on the whole application for the special permit. We don't have retail sales going on there now, do we?
No.
No, we're adding retail sales, the
Right.
convenience store.
Right. Not that I don't know that people wouldn't want a restaurant there, a small pizzeria, I don't know.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair, I just saw a new gas station open up in the town I work for the Board of Health. What the interest is nowadays is quick, easy food. They have pizza, it's actually pretty good, but they have these ovens like some of our donut shops do that will heat it up quickly. And so it's really not your traditional pizza facility, but they offer a product that's equivalent to some degree.
Okay, so do we want to put in any kind of condition, or are we good with this as is?
I think that what we have to have is some sort of a regulation that it can't go beyond what the intended use is. I can understand if you're going to have somebody that's going to come in and bring in sandwiches, or you're going to have a thing rolling hot dogs, so you can put it into a button in a roll and off you go. I have seen those in gas stations, but I just don't want to see it go beyond to the point where somebody's going to put in a pizza oven, something like that.
Well, but there's a differentiation between a whole pizza with 8 pizzas in there versus a little thing that does a
Slices.
slice, right?
Right.
Mr.
if I may-
Chairman, if they
Counsel
are
Roby.
installing a grease trap, and I don't know for sure if the building commissioner knows, but I would guess the size of the grease trap is related to what they can do within the restaurant? So they probably can't be cooking tons and tons of things that would
Right.
produce a lot of
But
grease.
if they changed use, they would just change the size of the grease trap.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, when we come back next time, we'll prepare a condition that gets us close to describing our business plan as we envision it now, but addresses Councilor Clancy's concerns as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Seeing no other questions, a move to table would be in order.
Motion to table.
Motion is made and seconded to table. All those in favor? It is tabled, 5-0. So you folks will go to site plan review, and one of the reasons we did have them in, Councilor Roby, is because our workload is long and our calendar is short. So we wanted to at least get some of this underway. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll take a 37-second break, and then we will start on our next item.
Rob, I'll have to take Betsy out there once a week for lunch.
I can have a bench to sit on. You took away the bench.
Yeah, well,
I was gonna say, you're gonna have to, you're gonna have to sit in your car now.
well, tip my car, yeah? Well, if I have a trailer, we can sit in the back of the trailer. I don't think that's where they're gonna make the money, though. But some of the neighborhood kids might run up there, though. Yeah, why not? Hey, Ma, what's for lunch? Go up the gas station. Go get gas.
Okay, let's come to order, please. So we'll now take up our two remaining orders. We're going to take up order number 19-100, excuse me, 7763, application for site plan approval from Post Road Realty LLC for the Green District project to be built in the Executive Residential Overlay District at 107 Cimarano Drive. If you folks would like to come up. So we had a few items in particular that were in discussion. It appears that our professionals at Site Plan Review, our city engineer, have come to somewhat of a comfortable agreement. So it would be my, I guess my predilection to have Mr. Falk walk us through that if you'd like to do that. If Mr. DiPercio, you had any comments you'd like to make, you know, you can chime in as you see fit. If you want to start with anything, or do you want to let them go ahead and proceed? All right, Mr. Falk.
Sure. So the main issue we were discussing last time was the access road leading out to Cedar Hill Road. We had proposed leaving it in a gravel state and gated as a true emergency access road. But we've come to agreement with the members of the site plan committee that the road will be in a gravel condition, but it will not be gated. So it will be open to residents only. We will sign it accordingly, but it will be gravel, but also open.
Okay, excuse me. So councilors, we have this in our, we were given this in our packets. So you can see the blue, I think, is a lot of that was from Mr. DiPercio, and the red from the applicants, or vice versa. So under H, emergency access drive, is that still correct? Is it going to be an emergency access drive?
So it won't be, and I'm always reluctant to be giving additional red lines to the committee, especially on the eve of our meeting. So Mr. DiPercio did a red line on the one that we had originally provided, and I left that alone, but I think we will need some tweaks because it will not be an emergency access drive. We'll come up with a different description for it.
Secondary entrance, exit, something like that?
Driveway, we'll come up with a better description. We can work with the city solicitor to describe it properly, but the substance is there in terms of what the city engineer put forward in terms of what we're doing, which is it's an access drive for the residents, but it will be gravel. And we do appreciate the city's consideration there. This helps us quite a bit in terms of our MEPA filing.
So just to confirm, Mr. DiPercio, we're good with this? Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman, while we're on there, I hate to be a pain, but can someone use the map that's up there and go through this and read through the language? Because I'm still, and I guess because I didn't have a current site plan, it still seems confusing to me. But you need to follow the language. Don't just show me on the map.
Should have one of these big maps as well.
Because
on their
the
desks.
language, I think, is where I'm getting confused.
Okay. So we're talking under H1, Counselor?
H2,
Okay.
and probably specifically starting with the blue.
Okay, so I'll read it for the record, the blue portion. The specification for the surface used for the emergency access driveway, which will be changed to secondary access or something like that. Secondary access shall be gravel in accordance with the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration's Gravel Roads Maintenance and Design Manual, November 2000, Table 2, page 42, or recycled asphalt product to be approved by the Site Plan Review Committee. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for Site 2, the portion of the emergency access driveway or secondary access will be paved, access from Site 1 to just after the second entrance to Site 2.
So if you
shall-
stop there, sorry, Mr. Chairman, so explain that to me. The portion of the driveway from Site 1 to just after the second entrance to Site 2.
Certainly, Council Roby, in Phase 1 for Building 1, we will pave the Spine Road from Cimarano Drive to just after the second entrance, which
But
is
that's
right
not what, this
right
is
here.
talking about the portion of the emergency access driveway.
Right.
So that's
so-
not the emergency access driveway, that's the entrance, isn't it?
Well, just, the condition tries to speak to this section of the roadway during Phase 1. So during Phase 1, this will be paved to this location, and then this will serve, during Phase 1, this will serve as a portion of the secondary access drive. But then at the beginning of Phase 2, or within the construction of Phase 2, this portion of the roadway will be paved and will be the primary access from Cimarano Drive past Phase 1 through to Phase 2. And then this portion here out to Cedar Hill Road is what we're talking about, remaining gravel. So during Phase 1, this will be gravel, this will be paved, and this will be gravel. After Phase 2, this will be paved, and this segment here will remain gravel.
So maybe there's a way to distinguish from Cimarano, which to me is not the emergency access driveway, versus what is Cedar Hill, which we're calling the emergency access driveway, and it will now be something new, because this says it's from Site 1 to just after the entrance, you're
Right, so-
paving from Cimarano up.
So Brian, I'm just going to ask you to clean up the language, and Councilman Bromley makes a good point. So let's do something that's a little
So
bit
that
more
we're clear on what's
illustrative.
paved and what's remains unpaved and what gets paved in the future. Thank
We can
you.
put a phasing diagram together and attach that if you like.
Okay.
Any other, so why don't we just talk about this secondary access road, let people weigh in if they so desire, if anybody has a problem with it. Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Actually, it's more of a question during Phase 1, which is after Building 1 is completed. There's still going to be an emergency access gate to the Stone Gate apartment complex, right?
Yes.
Okay, so from the end of the paving in Building 1, is it going to be gravel going to that location as well?
Yes, it would remain, that would remain until Site 2 is developed, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the changes? Councilor Roram?
Thank you. I just had a question related to the actual gravel versus the potential for permanent pavers. I know you have to plow, and it may cause for additional mowing of it, but was that ever considered versus the gravel? You know what I mean by a permanent paver? They're like sideways bricks that hold the weight, but you actually have grass in between.
Certainly, just the pavers are, I guess they're an issue for MIPA, so which seems strange, but that's what we learned the other day from MIPA with guidance from DEP. So we're better staying with gravel. And again, the reason we're invoking the EPA standard is because that's for permanent gravel roads. So the material is more hardy, it binds better, stands up to plowing better. It's used in cold weather environments where it's subject to plows. So, and there's a condition that we need to continually maintain it, or the police chief, fire chief, building commissioner, or city engineer, all four, I think, have the authority under the condition to make us pave it if we don't maintain it,
Sure, no,
which means plowing and repairing.
I was just thinking of the view of it as green versus paved, but if MEPA, the MEPA process actually is saying go gravel, and engineering-wise, it probably is going to be easier to plow, I can understand. Thank you. I just was curious.
Okay, Counselor Landers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just pleased that the site review group, accepted the change. I was really concerned about having, probably 18,000 square feet of hot top, 900 times, say, 20 feet wide. And I think the gravel will be fine. I did talk to the fire chief, and I said, any problem, as long as you, keep the snow off it, so they can go in, or you can plow it after every storm, that if they had to go in, they could go in. So I'm very pleased, really, Mr. Chairman, that change was made.
Good. Thank you, Counselor. President Clancy, then Counselor Roby.
Yeah, on the emergency access driveway, are you going to have to put in a structure over the wetland? There's a wetlands crossing there.
They're in, aren't they?
Yeah, the wetlands crossing's already done. Back in 2000 by Boston Properties, there's actually a full crossing there. So what was done was the base was, the bridge was put in, the utilities were, the water was looped, the gravel base was put in, the replication wetlands were done. So a lot of that infrastructure was
The
done.
replication area has already been completed?
Replication area has already been completed, and we actually went over that with Priscilla, and it appears that the 2,000 square feet of replication wetlands has become 8,000 square feet.
Yeah, on the, it looks as though that there's like a sidewalk on that? There's like the two head walls, and then there's some other thing.
I don't know.
I'm looking at the plan here. It shows two wing walls, and then there's another line. I'm just wondering, was that built so that you could put a sidewalk in there at some point?
Yes, I think it was set up fairly wide, and there's guardrail already on it, the wing walls, the whole deal, it's pretty much
So
set.
that is already completed?
That is complete.
And, you're going to have to go in there and run your utility water line in.
No, water line's already installed.
Does that go up to Stone Ledge?
It loops, yeah, it goes up to Stonegate and then loops from Cedar Hill to Cimarano.
Do you have to increase the size because of the size of the project?
Nope, we do not.
Built that way. Built
You-
to
it-
accommodate this.
It was
Yeah.
built to accommodate this? Okay.
So we don't, we actually don't have to do any additional utility crossings at either of the two crossings. Sewer is already in, and drainage is
Is it gravity sewer?
separated.
Is it gravity sewer?
Gravity sewer, yeah.
Yep. There's a very large water main out in the middle of Cimarano Drive. Are they, it's prone to breaking? Are we planning on doing anything, or are we just going to leave it the way it is?
You're correct, we have had a lot of breaks that was to the north of this area specifically. There's
Yep.
a lot of ledge under the road, and the water main in some places was installed right on the ledge pretty much, so we did have some breaks there. It's been a couple years since we've had one, but there's no plans to do anything right now.
Yeah. There isn't any redundant way to backfeed, is there?
This area is fed from both, as you know, Cedar Hills, our supply is near here, but there is feed from both sides. to
So in
this
other
part of
words,
Cimarano.
if you had a problem out there, they would not lose water.
Correct, yeah, it can be isolated such that it's still fed.
It's a
from the-
redundant system, so it can be backfed. Okay, good, thank you.
Okay. Counselor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do think there was a little give and take from both the proponent and site plan, and I thank them both. I know I was a strong pusher for paved all the way. I'm happy with the condition number 5, and with the gravel. I'm also very pleased that it will be an open driveway, even though it's gravel, not paved. I think that site plan was also pushing for that, so I thank them both for the work that they did kind of behind the scenes to come up with these changes.
Yep. Compromise is the mother's milk of progress, so it's a good thing. All right, so other things that we had,
Write that down.
did you want to hit a couple more, or?
Just two other items I wanted to mention that are changes in the draft decision, and then we just had two other items that we wanted to address. One is, the city engineer wanted to see more traditional sidewalks. We had pedestrian ways throughout pedestrian paths throughout the site, but the city engineer was pushing for more traditional adjacent to the roadway sidewalks, which we now have. They will be stone dust, so they'll be pervious, but they will be adjacent to the driveway from Cimarano in onto the site, so it'll be.
And once they're packed down, they're very usable?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Tom, yeah? Counselor?
If I may on that point, I did actually talk to Mr. DePercio because you referenced the traffic impact and access study, which I had no idea what TIAS was until I had to go back through all my paperwork. But on that study, it says that you will complete streets that meet the Mass DOT Complete Street Guidelines, which when I looked at them, sidewalks are paved. Paths are not. So if we're going to if it's not going to be paved, it probably shouldn't be called a sidewalk. It should probably be called a path. Or you should say what you said you were going to do and pave it. But
So that's
We'll
under
push
I,
that
internal
point.
site sidewalks?
So if we change sidewalks to paths throughout?
Paths.
Okay.
Does that work, Tom?
that works for me. I guess it works.
Yeah,
for-
Counselor Roby's correct. The definition of a sidewalk would mean it was paved. I think it meets the principle of the complete streets in that it gets a place for pedestrians to walk that's outside of the traveled way.
Does that still fulfill the regulations? If it's a path versus a sidewalk?
Yeah, I mean, the regulation, the complete streets policy says that private developments, I think, should strive to meet the principles of it, which I would say that this does. And given that the paving is going to bump them up to the MIPA threshold, I think this was one of the compromises that we made.
Good. Any questions on that? Counselor?
Just a comment on the stone dust pathways. You know, on Old Iron Way there, the other development, the other side of town, they put a nice stone dust pathway in a couple of years ago, and I just happened to notice the other day, and I happen to have a few in my own yard too, but stone dust can be very nice, and it just makes it, you know, more appealing. So I would certainly support that.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Falk?
Yep. The only other item I wanted to raise was under item K, the Cimarano Drive improvements. There was a request that the lane widening, the left turn lane, be done as part of Site 1 development, and we have made that change. So both the crosswalk and the left turn lane will be part of the development of Site 1, not postponing that lane widening until Site 2.
Good, I appreciate that. I know site plan wanted it, and some of the councilors thought that was a good
Absolutely,
idea
absolutely.
as well.
Again, Mr.
Counselor Roby.
Chairman, can I be a pain in the neck on this one? Can we remove the language, although I've been talking to Mr. DePercio, it may be...
Counselor, can you bring that microphone
Yes.
closer to you, please?
The sentence starts with "as described in the TIAS." The TIAS does say it does not need to happen until Phase 2. So we are actually pushing the requirement beyond what it says. So if you literally take what the traffic impact study says, it's Phase 2. So either delete that as described or say regardless of, because...
We
the-
can just start the sentence with prior.
Right. The
Yeah.
concern becomes, in the study, there is a plan for how this was going to happen. So the plan maybe needs to be referenced in this, or I don't know if it's
But I don't
referenced
think
in
there's any
site
question
plan.
that you're going to have to show the left turn lane and all that in the plans, right?
And it does say approved by the city engineer, so I think he's covered for making sure it's what he wants anyway. I just...
Before we vote on any of this, we'll have the updated plans and all that, which we will pass to our experts who will say, yep, this is it, properly dated, signed, and reflected.
Okay, so if we could just delete that beginning.
It's already done.
Thank you.
Counselor. All right, if there's nothing else, what I would do, Brian, if you
Yep.
can add anything you want to, otherwise, I'm going to walk through this quickly, or as fast or slow as the council wants, go right through the site plan review, and maybe just approve it tonight.
If I may, there's just two other items we wanted to bring up. One is some change, we'll obviously be updating the plans with a new date. I just want Mr. Pesnola just to walk through a couple of other changes you'll see in those plans when they come across, just so everyone's clear what the new plans will look like. Joe?
Okay, so, and these will be, are these reflected in this set of plans you gave us?
They will be.
Oh, they will be, okay.
Yes.
All right.
So, as we discussed tonight, I think the stone dust parking, the stone dust walkways, walking paths will be shown. The indication of the conditions on the gravel path and the specifications that were listed in the conditions will be there. With regard to parking, we, as I stated in the response to Councilor Orem's questioning on the grass paves, we're getting some pushback from MEPA on those. And we had speculated in utilizing some of those grass paver parking spaces. We can't do that now. So just the way that we're working around that is on Site 1, we will have all the parking spaces paved. That'll be 354, as we have previously shown, or a 1.51 parking ratio. Fully compliant with the zoning requirement for one space per bedroom. On Site 2, we will reduce the parking to 323 spaces, which is fully compliant with the zoning ordinance for parking, one per bedroom. That's about a 1.37 space per unit ratio, or 677 spaces total spaces on site. This is a reduction from what was previously submitted to the council, but again, fully compliant with the zoning requirements, and gets us where we need to be for MEPA.
Okay, thank you. I think as far as parking, we want to have as little as we can to do the job, yeah, Counselor? Counselor Jouer?
Just those numbers, I'd just like to get those, if you could send them to us, so that we can just review them.
Those will be on the plans, yeah?
They'll be depicted in the zoning table on the first sheet of the plan, so they'll be plain as day.
Peter, is your mic on? Is your mic on?
And I didn't understand what you just said, something about less parking?
So I think what we've learned over the years, and from an environmental standpoint, we don't want to have tons of excess parking that nobody uses. Bad for the environment, waste of money, space. Rather have greenery or something productive there.
Okay, I just didn't hear you, I
Yeah,
wanted to.
yep, sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, on that point, if I may, the original agreement that we wrote up for the whole site does allow us to reduce parking. They haven't asked for that, is that correct?
That's correct.
They're meeting their requirement?
Correct.
Yeah.
Councilor Landers?
Speaking of parking, I gotta put my transportation hat on now. Do you,
Briefly.
That's all right,
brief-
Mr. Chairman.
Briefly, Counselor.
I know, but it's important. We have a shuttle bus now that goes around the complex, that goes over the south row of the station. What do you people see that as that expands, I don't think you want people getting on and off a bus or shuttle bus or whatever buses are in the future. I don't think you want them out Summer Ronald Drive. So can you see any way that a shuttle, this is the future now, could come in, you people might surrender a couple of parking places for a bus stop? I mean, you're gonna have school buses maybe going in, maybe they could share the same bus stop or something.
Counselor, you're talking about the shuttle bus essentially going to the train station and back.
The what now?
The shuttle bus going to the train station.
Yeah, any shuttle bus that we have, and I think in the future, some of the committees see, Mr. Chairman, that expanding. So I just thought this would be a good time, when you're talking about parking, could you see, surrendering a couple of parking places, either in conjunction with a school bus or the shuttle bus?
Yes, Counselor, I don't think we have to surrender any parking spaces. I think our layout is quite conducive for buses, school buses and shuttle buses to come onto the site And as we've kind of worked out with the school committee, the buses will come down the Spine Road, go into the second entrance of each of the two sites, and be able to loop right in front, pull right up to the main lobby, and anybody waiting will be able to wait in the lobby, come out, get on the school bus or get on the shuttle bus and be off. I think it's a great idea.
I think if it works for the school buses, it could work for any future shuttles we have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was important to get that in, though.
Okay, Counselor, good commercial. President Clancy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Irrigation, are you going to have irrigation for the shrubbery?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it going to be city-provided water, or are you going to put a well in?
I don't think you know.
Yeah, we haven't worked those details out, but many times it's more advantageous to sink an irrigation well than to pay for the city water.
I know that other developments, large developments like this, have put in irrigation wells primarily so that they won't be totally dependent upon the city's water system. So if you would put that into consideration.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. So I'm gonna go through the site plan review permit here, and I'm just gonna hit the highlight buttons, and if anybody wants to question or make changes, you'll let me know. So I'm starting at the site plan approval final conditions with A, site plan conformance. That's all cookie cutter language. I am on the site plan permit.
Okay. Because I had questions
this
on
is
the
the one-
beginning part, but
This one.
Pardon me?
I had questions on site plan approval, final conditions. That's where you're starting?
Yes, I'm gonna go through those.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So we're now on letter B, construction, staging, and safety plan. Stop me if I'm going along. C, green building and site design. Council Roby.
If I may suggest that we add after the secure bike storage and repair room, the words "within the buildings." Because
Council, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Yeah.
if we add after secure bike storage and repair room, add in the words "within the buildings," which is what they state again in that traffic impact study, rather than being standalone places.
Makes sense.
Are you good with that?
And if we
Okay.
add in the word "free" in front of bike share program.
We good with that?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And I don't know, maybe to answer Counselor Lander's concern, add a plural to dedicated rideshare drop-off location, so it's more than one.
Okay. You good?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Letter
Chair,
D,
Mr. Chair.
Counselor Orm.
It got brought up, I can't remember if it was this site, we talked about clear cutting, trying to limit clear cutting to some degree. I know you have to build a building, so that's, you gotta clear cut that, but I noticed the nature trails and so, and by the way, A+ on your green building concepts. It just, I was curious, because clear cutting can cause issues during construction. So I don't know if that was your intent to try to utilize as much, well, prevent any clear cutting where you can.
Can I address? So we will, before any clearing's done, we will make sure that our landscape architects and our architects and ourselves walk the site with the subcontractor. It's usually a subcontractor to the site contractor, the tree guy. So we'll walk it very carefully and, tape trees that we can save and make sure that the tree save areas are very, clearly marked. Very important to us, too.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, we'll go on to letter D, construction. All the standard language, hours of operation, 7 to 7, except Sunday. Counselor,
Yeah, usually under conservation, they always have a phasing plan, as to what goes first. So so in other words, you go in there, you clear the site, then you have stumping the site, then you have You have to have a phasing plan, pre-construction, or construction.
Yes, we've actually now included that in the plan set that's been submitted to the Conservation Commission. So when we update the plans to the City Council, they'll include those within that set as well.
Okay.
Fantastic. Okay. E, stormwater and erosion control. Any questions about that section? Talking about NIPDs, catch basins, erosion control. Council Roby. Counselor, again, nobody can hear anybody tonight. I asked him to go
I'm
turn
sorry,
up the
no,
volume.
I didn't turn my light on. That's my fault that time. Number 3 in E3, second line, the applicant shall submit a notice of intent.
Yep. Thank you. Good pickup. Okay. Catch basins, erosion controls, etc. Dewatering. Okay. Usual stuff. Any questions on that? Seeing none. F, landscaping. Talking about modifications, boulders, dog park. The dog park has to make sure the drainage goes off properly and not impact water quality. As usual, replace plantings that don't survive, and maintenance. Any questions? G, setbacks.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilors, you aware?
just real quick on the dog park. Where is that going to be?
Sorry, you missed your chance. We're past it. No, go ahead.
Where's that going to be located in the facility?
Right here. Within Phase 2, just to the west of the north parking lot.
Can you show me again? Gotcha.
Okay, thank you.
All right. H, emergency access drive, which is going to be changed to secondary access road. And so we're going to clean up all that language. Any questions on that? Kind of talked it through. Internal site sidewalks, which we're going to change to internal site paths. Okay. Good. School bus access. That's something we discussed at our public hearing or our last meeting, I believe. Cimarano Drive improvements. Councilors made requests, as did site plan review, and they were granted. So we'll have a safer design with that left-hand turn lane. K, lighting, standard. General provisions, drainage, as-built plans, stormwater, annual reports. Time for completion, 3 years. So this is for both phases, right? It says 3 years. That seems like it was tighter than you were thinking.
It's 3 years for Site 1.
Site 1.
Yeah.
Okay. That ought to do it.
That's good. Both phases wouldn't work.
No, I wouldn't think so. Okay.
But do we need to add something for Phase 2? Because if we don't, it could just sit there. And we're approving a plan for 1 and 2.
Yes, we are. So, Site 1, really, 3 years is kind of long, but, so what are numbers that work for you?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening, I was talking.
Well, just wondering, what numbers work for you? What's reasonable? We're talking about the completion within 3 years for Phase 1,
Yeah.
5 years for Phase 2?
I would, forgive me, but I would hate to be obligated to say when Phase 2 would be finished or begun. And the reason is, we won't start Phase 2 for at least a couple of years, and we just don't know what the economic conditions are going to be 24 months from now. And it's a little difficult to be able to tell you that banks are going to have liquidity, that our financial partners are all going to want to go ahead and
So, Mr.
Best-
Montello, you bring up a good point. However, we can put in a number, and then if it's clear you're not going to make it, you come back for a modification and say, because we don't like to see things half done, and we're going to want to know, okay, did you change your mind? You're going to tune out, drop out, and go do something else? Or,
we just want as much time as we can get because, if there's a recession between now and then, we're going to have to get on the other side of the recession to start the second phase.
Right.
We don't think there will be. We feel really confident, but it's just always a concern to agree to something that's a huge financial undertaking, 2 years from now.
Well, that doesn't force you to do it. It just forces you to come back if you're not going to be able to do it in the deadline. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I remember the campus that is actually on Cimarrano Drive above at the top of the hill. Every couple of years, they come back and they ask for an extension. They're asking for something like that, for something like this. So I understand your predicament in looking forward. There's no crystal ball involved here. But it's basically, if you decide to continue it or stop, it's your prerogative. That just gives us the option to know whether or not it's still an option on the table or you're just going to walk away.
What we can do is 5 years on Site 2. And as you noted, if that's not going to work based on economic conditions, we would come back and seek an amendment or an extension.
So 3 years from today, from the issuance of the permit for Site 1, 5 years for the issuance, from the issuance for Site 2?
Yes.
Yeah, and it hasn't been onerous for people to come back.
But
Yeah? Okay.
not,
So if-
not 5 years from the issuance of Site 2,
No,
5 years
from the issuance
total?
of this site plan approval, by 3 years you have to complete Site 1, and 5 years from now you have to complete Site 2 unless you come back for an extension.
Okay.
President Clancy and then Councilor Doucette.
This would be, thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question. In the preparation of the site, are you going to clear both sites at the same time? Many times you get a logger in there and you say, hey, go get the, go clear it. You're only going to clear Site 1.
Correct.
And then when Site 2 comes ready, you'll clear that.
That's right.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, we won't leave that land.
Yeah, you don't want to go fallow.
Andy, can you speak into the mic there? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just agreeing with Mr. Clancy that Site 1 will be cleared and Site 2 would not be touched until we were ready to start building there. Only exception is if there are utilities that have to, have to be run. I don't think there are, but
There might be some minor work that needs to get done, but we'll limit that.
road grading or something.
Right.
Sometimes what happens is that you need material, you say, well, we better go over and do a cut and fill. So in other words, you're using that as a borrow site.
Yeah,
Or
no,
using it as a waste site.
Site 1's balanced, Site 2 is an import.
It's going to be an import?
Yeah.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would propose that instead of having it 3 years for building Phase 1 and 5 for Phase 2, that we consider 3 years for Phase 1 and then 3 years after the completion of Phase 1 for Phase 2. It's just at that point, it's, let's get one done. You leave the rest pristine, and I like that, and I appreciate that. I wouldn't mind having that as one of the conditions. And then let's worry about Phase 2 after 1 is completed and it's done. We have a chance to look at it, see what the market's like. Because I still have a concern of it's only 2 years later. That, I'd rather just have it more progressive way to do it, so.
Well, the applicants offered 5 years, so I was happy to go with what they offered. Councilors have an opinion? 5, 6?
I was going to suggest 3 like they have, but if they offer 5, I'm fine with 5.
They're offering 5.
So 3 and 5. 3 for Site 1 and 5 for Site 2. Cool. All right. Signage. So we'll probably talk a little bit about signage as well in the special permit, but hopefully they're going to be very tasteful signs out front, et cetera. I kind of think that's your thing, so, but during the special permit, we usually want to say, hey, what does it look like? Give us an idea. Changes to the site plan, okay. Good, enforcement. That's really it, folks. Is there any other questions, any things we overlooked? Councilor Roby, then Councilor Oram.
I have two things in going through the traffic impact study. One was their statement that they would join the Metro West 495 Transportation Management Association, and I don't know if we can put a condition in here or if it's better off in the special permit part of it.
I think special permit for that kind of thing, if in fact we wanted that.
And then they do also talk about putting some striping on the 495 ramp intersection and Cimarano Drive, and I don't see any of that specified in any of their site plan language.
Tom,
So I don't know.
what say
if-
you on that subject, Tom? Is that something important?
I didn't see it on the site plans either. Maybe we could hear from them on.
And
what
then,
they're-
while he's looking at that, we quickly got a handout of the...
Wait, let's let Joe Pesnola.
Okay.
Joe, do you want to address that?
Yeah, let's get Ron.
Yeah.
Ron?
Ron's our
So
traffic.
if you want, you can grab that mic or whatever's convenient for you.
So he knows this by heart.
Thank you. Ron Mueller for the record, traffic engineer for the project. Is this on?
Yeah, you can take it right out.
Oh, it is, okay. Yeah, the section that you're referring to, when we do a traffic study, we look at improvements that are necessitated by the project, such as, for example, the widening of Cimarano Drive to put in the left turn lane. And then for the benefit of the community that we're doing the study in, we always also list improvements that we note may be necessary or may be a good thing for the community to do, but have nothing to do with the project. The particular section that you're referring to is specifically under the heading of improvements independent of the project. Right. So that was a recommendation that we made. We observed that some poor pavement markings are faded out in that area. That's the section of the road that is actually under Mass DOT control. So that's a recommendation we've made basically to Mass DOT that they should repave their road.
Good. Tom, maybe we can pass that along to them. Councilor Roby. Councilor, again, I can't hear you.
Turn it on. I'm just going to leave it on. We received I guess a revised, or their version of the development review criteria. The council has not done this, which...
No, we're not going to do this tonight.
Okay, but we are still going to do this before we approve...
Do this, no, we'll do
the
this as
special
part of the
permit?
special permit,
Okay, thank you.
if there's no objection, okay? Okay, any, Councilor Orm?
Yeah, just when we were talking about the time for completion, it brought to mind the other part, the enforcement that the building commissioner is required to do. Usually with enforcement, it's usually to stop a process, such as if you're causing problems with wetlands or whatever, and it would involve more than a building commissioner. But that's not my real point. My real point was, so they don't finish in 3 years. Obviously, the enforcement agent shouldn't be stopping them from that, but it just doesn't have guidance on if he fines or just gets them back in order or brings it to the council. I'm just curious. So the building commissioner is not in a jam when hopefully it won't come to that, but if through you to the...
Well, I think normally what would have to happen is they need to come back to the council for approval of an extension, and the building commissioner typically would use fines to get their attention and get them back to the table. So I don't think we have to put in a whole list of punitive things. The building commissioner has the tools to do that, and I think it's in everybody's interest to make this work. Unless do you have anything to add to that, or we're good? Okay.
And frankly, sir, we're in much greater hot water than we are with our bank if we don't have this thing finished than we are with the city of Marlborough.
You don't have to worry about the building
And we have
commissioner.
guarantees on this, so.
Yeah, but I just, I know there's fines and penalties for general nuisances. We see them a lot in our emails. But I didn't know if we had a fine or penalty structure for these larger permits. I didn't know if that existed.
Not that I'm aware, I mean, we haven't had to really enforce that in,
Yeah, usually the
I've been
banks-
on the council, and,
Sounds like the banks are doing it for us, so.
well, you know, it's one thing to see the city pickup truck coming up the lane, but then the Mercedes with the angry bankers, that makes your blood cold, I'm pretty sure. All right, thank you, Counselor. Is there anything else on the site plan review? If there's not, a motion would be in order to approve as amended.
Motion to approve as amended?
Motion is made and seconded, excuse me, to approve as amended. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it is approved. So what we will do, we will ask you to clean this all up and get us a copy to make sure everything is as it should be, and if, to the extent you can highlight that, that makes it much easier for us, and we'll get that moving forward. So, I don't know if we want to start on the special permit tonight, if there's anything you want to go there, or I think at this point, would just say, hey, we made a lot of progress, let's go home, and we'll work on the other things another night.
Turn my heat up at home. Cold.
And Councilor Jouer is cold.
The next
Mr.
two of us.
Montelli, Mr. Falk?
That works, as I mentioned to you earlier, Mr. Chairman. City Council still has 3 meetings left this calendar year. We have site plan review, although I don't think we need to go back on November 5th, so there is time in terms of a decision this year to table and have another urban affairs meeting. Yes.
Okay, so when you come back, a couple things, if we could get an idea what the signage might look like. If we can get a better printout of this, something that you can kind of guide us through.
Yep.
On the big screen, because I just can't read that. We do have an agreement, we'll talk about, maybe that's the one subject we can talk about now before we break, is the mitigation funds that you have generously offered. So just so that the council's aware, in the special permit on page 4, essentially, the applicants are requesting that we allow them to step down from 15% affordable housing, and I know Council Roby doesn't like this, to 10%, which makes the project invisible for purposes of 40B. And for Phase 1, they'll give us $600,000, and for Phase 2, they'll give us $600,000 for 12 units each. In addition, for Phase 1, they'll give us another $3,500 per unit, which is $822,500. So that's $1,422,500 for Phase 1, and $1,440,000 for Phase 2. So that's basically $2.8 million, which I would like to go to the fire station, but that's completely up to the councils down the line. There's nothing we do that's binding here. But that might be a good use, but you guys may buy golden toilet paper rolls for the schools. I don't know. That'll be your choice, not mine. So that's a very generous payment that, you know, if we have that 2.8 million, 300 and change coming in from Avalon 2, from Joe Zink, and another $1 million from Crowley Drive, it's $4 million down payment for the fire station in my mind. In your mind, it may be for, you know, money's fungible. It can go one way or the other. That'll be up to the wisdom of future councils. But that's a very, very generous contribution. I personally am happy with it, but I'm one vote. Councilor Jouer, any opinions on that?
No, I think it's, I'm on. I think it's a very generous donation. I think projects like this impact our public safety. And to put that kind of money towards a public safety building, fire building, or fire station is, you know, a positive sign coming from you folks, because that many units will impact our fire department. Thank you.
Any other councilors want to opine? Any other committee members first? No? Council Roby?
Thank you. I guess we do disagree, but I would also point out that it's a split payment, and payment for Site 2 could not happen for another 5 years. So just keep that in mind. I would also caution that this is a huge undertaking for the building department, and maybe some of that money would be well spent on a person dedicated to be at that
Well, this doesn't
site.
include all the building fees. Mr. Montelli, how much in building fees are you looking at? Permit fees, all that?
Permitting.
It's a number.
Well, we have had money specifically dedicated to hire an employee and other
That will be up to the
building-
mayor and the wisdom of future generations as well.
Correct.
Councilor Oram?
As long as your committee members are all set.
Yeah, please.
Okay. The concern I would have, and it's not a definite no, but we in Marlborough, and my concern is with affordable housing, attractive affordable housing, especially for our elderly who wish to downsize into level floor living. And what I mean by level floor living, it's all one floor. So I'm not for sure if any of your units are level floor living. And if they are, it would be an opportunity to at least look into that possibility to create affordable level floor living within your establishment. Your housing, I should say, not establishment.
Yeah. And just as a reminder, sir, these buildings are all elevated. It's one of the first projects, so you know, a person can get just as easily to the fifth floor as they can to the first floor. Unlike Stonegate, for example, which has staircases you have to walk up.
And that's, I'm glad you said that, because level floor living is about getting access to your floor. And then hopefully your bedroom, your bathroom, and your kitchen and living room all on that same floor. But it doesn't matter what floor it's on. I used to say first floor living, and I was corrected just recently. It's level floor living, which, thank you, you just stated it's, if you have an elevator, it makes level floor living available throughout your whole buildings.
I think there's 3 elevators in the first phase.
Thank you, and Mr. Chair, that's why I asked the
Okay,
question. 'cause
good
it
point,
could be a
Counselor.
perfect
By the way,
location.
I had this aha moment, and I went up to the mayor and discussed the idea, why don't we solicit over 55 40B low-income housing, not allowed, completely illegal, you can't do it by age. It would have been perfect
Understandable, but if
with bringing
it's
our costs, keeping our costs down from the schools, but helping our seniors, and you're not allowed to do that, which is
And-
kind of silly, but
I understand, but at least if we allow it, maybe some of the attraction could be for people 55 and over or elderly. It's not saying others aren't attracted to
no,
it.
but you can build it in a way that it appeals to a certain group.
Correct.
So, folks, I think that's all we're going to cover tonight. We made a lot of great progress, and I thank you all. I thank our applicants for coming and being so well prepared and working with our city professionals in a very positive way, and our city professionals have done a great job as always. So with that, a motion to table would be in order.
Motion to table.
Motion is made and seconded to table. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Motion to
Motion to adjourn is made and seconded. All those in favor? We are adjourned at 6:54. Thank you all and have a good evening.